11:05. I know that Callum and the crew here have a tight ship to run today, so I'll launch on into it. Maybe more people will join, or maybe I'll be listening to Jason's enigmatic approach to AI upstairs. But either way, thank you for joining me. My name is Liam Slack. Digital Isle of Man. Obviously, my focus is on building the video games and esports industry on the Isle of Man. And in terms of the talk today, there's kind of three main objectives. So the first is to talk about review to the strategy that Lyle mentioned upstairs, what we were doing coming into this year and the approach that we've taken starting in April, updating what the learnings have been from that so far, as well, and the successes, and updating the next steps for both how businesses locally can begin to get involved going into next year, as well as what the future looks like for the island's involvement in the video games and esports space. First, taking a look at the revisions from a Isle of Man standpoint. Coming into this year, as Lyle mentioned, we'd run into a couple of barriers where we've been approaching esports with regulation, prospects, looking at ways to try and like a legislative USP for the Isle of Man. That had been kind of running into a wall. When I joined 2 years ago, it was really about assessing what wasn't working about that. And the fundamentals that Lyle kind of made out were a lot of the businesses in the esports space were really challenging when it came to taking advantage of the benefits of the Isle of Man. They were pre-revenue, they were pre-profit, and in terms of legislation, it wasn't at a level of maturity where they were ready for that kind of product. So coming into this year, we really took a back step on that approach to the market, taking the regulation conversation and focusing now on partners that then, when they do arrive, have a legislative agenda. But when it comes to going to industry, talking about some of the four main pillars that all of you will know about the Isle of Man, which are, of course, that it's financially beneficial, that there's incredibly good infrastructure from a digital standpoint here, that the business community and back office and global support is extremely good, as well as the beauty and work-life balance of the island. This is all the fundamentals of the Isle of Man that everyone here knows, everyone here celebrates, but it was going back to that and then finding the right target market by expanding from the esports space and looking at that broader video games industry, as well as focusing on a geographical area that was lowest lift to make its way to the Isle of Man, building that initial critical mass for the industry on the island. Just going to take a sip of water every now and again. Forgive me if my voice goes. I've been on the other side of a cold. So in terms of doing all of that and like revising that strategy, we came into the year and did that and went back to market in April. And I went to 7 conferences throughout 2023, bringing that revised approach and then that wider approach to the video games industry with kind of 2 goals in mind. One, to build a pipeline and improve on the process of business development for this program, because when we were looking at it from the year before, it was running into that roadblock and finding the right kind of businesses that were interested in the Isle of Man and setting up here. So in terms of doing that, I'll talk about the results in just a second, but talking about the wider market that we're looking at in that regard. The esports industry that the program was focused on before was 1% of the global video games market. Now, I won't do Jason's party trick of saying, raise your hand if you've ever played a video game. But in terms of like even things like Candy Crush, like everything like that, it's well known throughout the world. It's a mature industry. It's a industry that's over $300 billion and growing year on year. And when it comes to that space, particularly to the advantage of the Isle of Man, the shift from the direct-to-consumer product being physical to digital has gone from 80% of sales made physically back in 2008 to as recently as this year being 80+% of all sales being digital. Now, that obviously takes that industry from a transient standpoint when it comes to the services in it, to being far more physically tied to larger infrastructural jurisdictions and consumer bases, to being a lot more flexible with their location and taking advantage of their jurisdiction. So talking about the success that I've had this year with this revised approach, first it goes to highlight what I was running into before, which was going out to industry and talking to businesses and saying, hey, are you interested in moving to the Isle of Man? Here's what the offering is. Here's regulatory opportunities, things like that. For every 100 businesses that I was talking to that way, one or so would be interested enough to make it into a development pipeline where we're saying, okay, here's all the next steps, and they're following up and engaging in that regard. Now, what we found in going to industry this year was a significant improvement to that with the wider industry and specifically among a specific type of profile. So businesses that were in the ancillary services space in the video games industry, so the likes of PR agencies, marketing companies, companies that are in cybersecurity that are specifically dedicated to the video game space as their entire business, but doing the additional services that are not just game development, all were directly very interested in this product by comparison with some of the other spaces. So why is that? The resulting change is that for every 100 businesses, about 9 make it into the pipeline now, which is a much healthier conversion in terms of finding individuals and businesses that are attracted by the prospect of the Isle of Man. And the fact of the matter is, there we go. The fact of the matter is that a lot of these ancillary services companies, they find themselves in what is a extremely booming industry, right? And a lot of different jurisdictions look at the video games and esports industries and say, oh, we need to make a jurisdictional effort in this regard. We're one of them, but different jurisdictions around the globe are all doing this. But what a lot of jurisdictions do is say, well, how do you make a big investment and build a video games and esports industry on your country or island or anything like that? Well, we have to make a video game development fund, and we'll make a program for publishers and game developers to apply for that, and then we'll give them grants and schemes to begin their businesses, and by doing that, we'll spur all of this economic activity. But for every video game that comes out, about 15% of all the people that work on it are from services industries that help with catering to that. So that's market analytics companies, community support and development tools, AI tools, recruiter services, and public relations companies. And none of these companies on their own are actually applicable for a lot of the jurisdictional benefit that these different jurisdictions are applying. And with everything becoming a lot more digitally focused, especially for these businesses, the fact is that they're sitting in the UK, for example, with 19, soon to be 25% corporation tax rate, and that's funding game development companies, but not any of the work that they're doing. And oftentimes for efficiency reasons or for just getting out of the melee of the city, I did that moving away from LA. The Isle of Man is an extremely attractive place to be. So that's the significant improvement that we found this year, which is businesses that are in that space are extremely interested when it comes to the proposition. While we talked upstairs about 5 jobs that were landed this year, the realistic side of it is that I started pitching in April and that's landed in 7 months' time. But the lead time for when a business says, yes, we're interested in relocating to the Isle of Man, and the logistics of, okay, we're going to move our lives and our business to the Isle of Man takes a little longer than that. So what we're up to now is 15 businesses that are in this space that are directly in conversations with us at various stages of consideration to making the final decisions about how they're going to relocate and set up here, whether that's full relocation or whether that's a branch office. And the main thing I want to talk to you guys about what those businesses look like and what kind of services and support they require, because ultimately this comes down to not just me going out and selling the Isle of Man. It also comes down to creating a business environment that Our partners here know how these kind of companies are going to need support, and that when a business lands, they have the community touch points to be able to then hit the ground running with this relocation, this change that they've made to benefit their company, and that it can go like from there directly. So, talking a little bit about some of the profile of these businesses. Some of the businesses that are in our pipeline at the moment are like asset exchanges for the video games industry. So if you think of the likes of Counter-Strike or other digital games that trade different things, working in that space and being an exchange market in that kind of area. Others are mobile game ad analytics services, so helping companies who have mobile games get the most value or be a platform for advertising for the wider industry. These are companies that you don't think of necessarily when it comes to the games industry, but in a $300 billion space, these are extremely important to a bunch of different types of core businesses in terms of making sure that they're accelerating and growing. So what does a company like that need? Well, it's a different profile than, for example, the e-gaming industry or data or AI. These are relatively low-risk businesses. They're not necessarily engaging in activities that are requiring direct regulation at the current moment. So when it comes to things like banking, their needs are less stringent. The process for opening an account or things like that aren't going to be as challenging. But what a lot of these companies do work with is intellectual property. And in terms of legal advice and accounting advice and multi-jurisdictional advice, that kind of core offering to help businesses understand how they operate and secure both their substance requirements, their location, and what the services are doing, what their branches are doing in different locations is extremely important to them because for this being a digital industry, the result, the consumer base is extremely global. So your company in this vein, and then your market can be anywhere from here to Southeast Asia. And what that looks like is entirely dependent on the type of service and what the end consumer is looking for. Additionally, in another aspect that they're often looking for is either IT, cloud, or infrastructural support, whether that's basing their operation here and looking at what services they're maintaining elsewhere, but creating a central service stack or things like that. That's often something that I've been running into as well, which obviously we have excellent partners like Domicilium who have sponsored the event, as well as many others on the Isle of Man who can help facilitate that. And then lastly as well, it's not to say that there isn't a space for us when it comes to video game developers or publishers. The fact is that with those offerings elsewhere, it's often not the right place or time for a video game developer to move to the Isle of Man. If they've released their first game or their first 3 games, oftentimes still the jurisdictional benefit of being like, okay, the cash flow is incredibly important for an early stage video game development company. Therefore, taking advantage of, for example, the video games tax relief in the UK and the flexibility of that in your books might be more important. But certainly, the earlier company sets up their intellectual property here, the longer term they can benefit from that. So as soon as a company has released 1 or more titles and is utilizing intellectual property of their games outside of just the video game space, so licensing it to other areas, you're not able to get that same like specific funding benefit. And of course, from a corporation tax standpoint, the like ongoing sales against like Steam summer sales, winter sales, whether that's via like Valve's platform or via Sony or PlayStation or anything like that. As a result, that's a long-term growing revenue stream. And all of that can be better protected from a financial standpoint here. So as companies are kind of hitting that mid-size of maturity from a game development standpoint, where they have a couple games under their belt and are creating that ongoing, regular, recurring revenue that they count on regardless of new product release, this is a good place for them. And then there's certainly a tipping point where if you're a video game developer with 300, 500, obviously everyone here knows some challenges with talent access. So at that point, it's better to be either, if you're going to take advantage of the Isle of Man, or potentially being baked in a larger infrastructure just for sheer talent access is sometimes better. But we have a good location in the middle of those things, and a vast majority of the games industry does fall under that swath. So looking forward at next year, the main thing that I want to do, now that we've kind of landed on this proposition that is receiving good feedback, that is creating this business development pipeline, my goals are to build that pipeline from 15 to 40 opportunities next year, to land 20 new jobs. And essentially, my main focus is business development, creating critical mass for the Isle of Man, turning success stories of businesses that move across or set up here into case studies, using those with our public relations partners, going out to events and really hammering home, hey, we have a unique offering that is beneficial to this large portion of this industry, and accelerating everything from there. That's going to be my focus next year. That's going to be my focus the next 5 years, next 10 years, as we get this industry up and rolling on the Isle of Man. But one of the big ways I want to do that is not just me going and talking at conferences and doing this because I can shout, I love the Isle of Man, but a collaborative effort is going to get us there faster. So there's two fronts that I'm looking to do next year. The first is setting up a consortium where every quarter I'm going to meet with businesses either here who are interested, who have just moved across, who are part of the games industry, or who want to learn more about the space, and set up a quarterly touch point where you both will know how this program is going, so the successes that we've had in terms of the different types of businesses. This target profile that I've kind of mentioned there, it's a wide to say, okay, the ancillary services space, but maybe as we go further into it, we find specifically advertising in the mobile game sector is a really big leader for us in terms of finding good case studies, as well as businesses that are here on the island working with those partners, being able to share their case studies, share their success stories, and how they're going about supporting those clients so that we can all learn at the same time. The real goal is to not just have me be going out there, but also for you guys to have opportunities in your businesses as well. And to make sure that when we get that on the island, before competition, and this is something that the Isle of Man does very well, we're looking at collaboration and making sure that as an island, we all understand the offering that we have, because it's a big industry out there and there's room for a lot of us. So knowing how to build those success stories, and the more of us are going out, the more people are going to be looking at the Isle of Man and talking to us, and in turn being connected through our strategic partnerships team to all of you. So that's the main focus next year. In addition to that, Lyle spoke about community practice up there. Didn't really dive too far into what that means, but this is very much a quarterly business gathering together, making sure that we're understanding and working together as a business community. The community of practices is meant to be a little bit more open to general public, students, people who are looking to get into the video games industry, making sure there's a touch point both with myself, with government, for people who are on the island and interested in getting into this space. They have somewhere that they can go to first. And that's going to be an opportunity as well for businesses here who are looking to push into this space. When they have a case study, when they have a way that they're looking to address the market, they can talk about that to emerging people here on the Isle of Man, as well as just it's a good forum for understanding where industry news is at and everything in that vein. So across the course of next year, I will be going to, this is the whole roadmap, but essentially right at the top here, I don't know if this laser is working, is all of the conference pitching. My goal is 200 businesses, but I imagine that I'll hit more than that. These are largely in London, nearer in Europe. And then in addition to that, focusing on those quarterly events on the Isle of Man. So building the support network here for businesses when they land, going and doing business development, a very clear, direct focus on that. And that's my sort of target here. I've got about 5 minutes for questions before Callum over there puts me in a headlock and throws me out of the room. So yeah, any of you who have any questions that you'd like to ask, please feel free. Slido is there. It's also, if you are struggling with the QR code, I believe you can use the hashtag Digi23, all caps, to put in any questions. Or if you're tired of hearing me speak, then I can just... Also, yeah, just raise a hand and Sarah will trip over someone and come help you.
And that's so great. How is it better? What did you should put in that? And then that's the Facebook teas in the great success that then you take. But what we do to keep those really particularly kids in how advanced?
I mean, so that's, again, it's not part of my direct, this is my mandate, is to keep the kids here. But it's one of the things that I find very exciting about the video games industry is across the sector, the skew for demographic when it comes to age and talent in the video games industry is predominantly in the 20s to 30s. That's the largest portion. And then it's almost an opposite bell curve. But when you look at the demographic of the Isle of Man, it's pretty much an exact opposite. The more industry that we can bring here through direct business development, the more direct opportunity there is on island for people to access an industry that they're going to be interested in, that they care about. In addition to that, with all the bandwidth I have available, I do try and invest into grassroots initiatives. So I know Will, who's at the back of the room, introduced me in through UCM, and we did a game jam as part of the Code Club course, the video game development module that they're doing at there. That's intended to happen again next year. And as many grassroots initiatives that we can get behind. Obviously, I'm not directly involved with Code Club, but I know that Sarah and Tara, who are members of our team, have been very directly involved in helping with funding initiatives, like locations for those to take place. This is a across the board digital enablement kind of initiative in that regard. And then the further I get along with specifically showcasing the business viability, which is when a job lands on the island, that's revenue for the government. I can fund more and more of those kinds of things here to create that good environment that people can come up in as well as move across for. Thank you. Any others? Ron and Sarah.
Is it on? I don't think it's on.
Yeah. I can't hear you.
And I've got a quick question. My only doubts with the gaming industry was years ago pitched to the Edinburgh. It's the only offset of the where the guy applied to music by skateboard actual story. Essentially,
they're all a lot younger than me. They all behave like a massive hurry. What's the elevator pitch for the Isle of Man? How do you if you go to all those conferences, somebody says, "Oh, you've got no time at all to tell me why I should relocate to the Isle of Man or I should be in the Isle of Man." What's the pitch?
It really, so there's a couple fronts, right? Because my pitch tailors very much towards who I'm speaking with. If I'm speaking with a game developer, honestly, like if they're just getting started, the conversation is, hey, this is something for you to consider as part of your 5-year plan if multi-jurisdiction is going to be part of your growth. There's a great efficiency for you to set up over that time, the financial benefits of the island, and potentially the work-life balance of the island. Like that's something that appeals very much to developers. If you're looking at the ancillary services space, talking about, hey, you're in a jurisdiction right now that is giving out grants, giving out funding, giving out support for game developers, for publishers, for the things that you are working on, but your business doesn't get any benefit from that. You can be based out of the Isle of Man and do these digital services just as easily with access to the same common travel area talent pool as you have right now in the UK. But you can be getting benefit from your jurisdiction in that we're not charging you for the pleasure of being here. Your corporation tax is at zero. Your personal income tax is where we see a return. So as your business is growing and as you are succeeding, that's where we see success as well, not necessarily off of a scattershot approach to investment in industry. I tried to keep it short because it's an elevator pitch, but I usually go on for 30 minutes. All right. Well, I think that's time, everybody. So thank you all for skipping on Jason's talk upstairs and coming and hearing me ramble. But when it comes to the Business Consortium, I'm here all day. I have cards to give out. If you want to give me email addresses to be on a stakeholder list to attend those, please walk up to me. Some of you are already on a catalog of services of partners we have on Island. You guys are already on that list, but anyone who wants to attend those, whether it's the communities of practice events, whether it's the business consortium events, come talk to me, and I will do the old-fashioned thing of writing your name down on a list and then emailing you about it, and we'll go from there. All right. Thank you very much.